You are watching Forbidden Knowledge TV.
Researchers at an Irish university have claimed that they have found proof that Ireland is the lost land of Atlantis. They say that the astonishing Neolithic temple tomb at Newgrange in the Boyne Valley is, in fact, the famous Temple of Atlantis and one of the oldest temples on Earth as a result. The researchers state that Atlantis Island was devastated by a huge tsunami triggered by a comet that hit Earth over 11,000 years ago. Other scholars say that Atlantis was not Ireland itself, but lay just off the country's west coast, perhaps the land once known as High Brazil. What is the evidence to back up such extreme claims? The Great Temple Tomb of Newgrange. One of the greatest archaeological achievements of prehistory, the vast Neolithic tomb Temple of Newgrange, is one of the earliest roofed buildings in the world. Newgrange was probably built around 3200 BC and consists of a passage running for 62 feet and a 20-foot high chamber with a corbelled roof, constructed of large stone slabs without mortar. The passage and chamber are covered by a huge stone and turf mound about 262 feet in diameter and around 44 feet high, surrounded at its base by 97 large stones known as curbstones, some of which are elaborately ornamented with megalithic art. For over 100 years, there has been speculation about who built Newgrange and what its primary function was. Excavations inside the chambers have revealed relatively few archaeological finds, probably because the majority had been removed in the centuries that the site remained open from 1699 until it was examined by archaeologist Professor Michael J. O'Reilly in 1962. The burials discovered consisted of 2 inhumations and at least 3 cremated bodies, all of which were found close to a huge stone basin, which seems to have been used for holding the bones of the dead. Archaeological finds inside the monument have not been spectacular, though a few gold objects have been found, including 2 gold torques, a piece of jewelry worn around the neck like a collar, a gold chain, 2 rings, a large phallus-like stone, a few pendants and beads, a bone chisel, and several bone pins. The lack of pottery finds at Newgrange is typical for passage grave cemeteries, which seem to have been places reserved for certain types of ritualistic activity involving a limited number of people. The entrance to the Newgrange passage tomb consists of a doorway composed of 2 standing stones and a horizontal lintel. Above the doorway is an aperture known as the roof box or light box. Every year, shortly after 9 a.m. on the morning of the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the sun begins its ascent across the Boyne Valley over a hill known locally as Red Mountain. The name possibly originates from the color of the sunrise on this day. The newly risen sun then sends a shaft of sunlight directly through the Newgrange light box, which penetrates down the passageway as a narrow beam of light, illuminating the central chamber at the back of the tomb. After just 17 minutes, the ray of light narrows and the chamber is once more left in darkness. This spectacular event was in fact not rediscovered until 1967 by Professor Michael J. O'Reilly, though it had been known about in local folklore before that time. In fact, the monument was known locally as the Cave of the Sun. The Newgrange lightbox reveals in spectacular fashion the knowledge of surveying and basic astronomy possessed by the Neolithic inhabitants of the area. It also illustrates that for the people who aligned their monument with the winter solstice, the sun must have formed an important part of their religious beliefs. But some researchers think that Newgrange was something else entirely, no less than a temple of Poseidon in ancient Atlantis as described by Plato. Ireland as Atlantis. According to Swedish scientist Ulf Erlingsson, the mythical sunken island of Atlantis was actually Ireland. He bases his claim on the geographical details described by Plato in his original account of Atlantis in 360 BC, linking it to the story of Dogger Bank, a shoal off the coast of England that was sunk by a tidal wave in 6000 BC. Erlingsson described his theory in his 2004 book Atlantis from a Geographer's Perspective, Mapping the Fairyland. In January 2020, an organization calling itself Keystone University, which described itself as a new type of university that provides the best educational seminars on the planet, released a video on YouTube claiming that Ireland was ancient Atlantis. The organization claims on its website, Atlantis was a megalithic mother culture, an island in the Atlantic Ocean of seafaring people during the Stone Age. Our team have undertaken the largest ever investigation into the legend and have compiled overwhelming proof that the legend of Atlantis is loosely based on Stone Age Ireland. Our findings go completely against mainstream opinion and revolutionize human history. Our work will stand up to the highest levels of scrutiny, and we aim to have our work independently verified by impartial experts. Keystone University is not a real university. Its curriculum consists of brief seminars, 3 per year. One involves improving one's mental faculties, another concentrates on business skills, and the third is about ancient mysteries, including Atlantis and human evolution. Each 3-day seminar is available at the bargain cost of €1,000. There are numerous problems with identifying Ireland with Atlantis. The Irish myths and sagas linked to Newgrange and other megalithic monuments quoted by researchers in favour of the theory date to the early centuries AD, perhaps a few centuries earlier. Thus, they are many thousands of years later than the megalithic period and have no known connection with it. Plato wrote clearly that Atlantis was in front of the Pillars of Heracles. The entrance to the Strait of Gibraltar between Spain and Morocco, and Ireland is nowhere near there. Plato also said Atlantis was the size of Asia and Libya combined, while Ireland is many, many times smaller than this. But if Atlantis was not Ireland itself, could it have been located nearby? High Brazil. High Brazil, often called the Irish Atlantis, is a mythical island that is said to have once existed and may still exist in the Atlantic Ocean off the west coast of Ireland. In fact, it was often shown on old maps as a very small island in that location. An island named Brasil was first shown on a Portolan chart by Majorcan cartographer Angelino Dulcert in 1325. Venetian cartographer Andrea Bianco placed an island named Insula de Brasil on a chart in 1436. So real was High Brazil thought to be that a number of expeditions were launched to try to find it, all without success. There is one intriguing mention by Italian explorer John Cabot, who wrote in a letter while at sea in the area of High Brazil that the land he was approaching was also discovered in the past by men from Bristol who found High Brazil. Even more strangely, in 1674, a Captain Nisbet not only claimed to have found the island while sailing from France to Ireland, but that he'd also met its inhabitants, a solitary magician in a castle and a race of huge black rabbits. What the truth of these strange assertions are, or what they were based on if anything, no one has ever been able to find out. Despite the lack of evidence, the Phantom Island continued to appear on maps until 1873, when it was shown for the last time on a British Admiralty chart. Because of its description and location, a number of researchers have linked High Brazil to Plato's Atlantis. According to Irish legend, High Brazil is a mysterious island forever blanketed in thick fog and invisible to the naked eye, only except for one day every 7 years when it is visible from the west of Ireland. The name High Brazil originated from Celtic mythology. As early as the 12th century, locals believed in the existence of a mysterious island that could be seen along the west coast of Ireland once every 7 years. There was an oral tradition of stories about an island in a fog bank or a floating island that would disappear when people approached it. According to Barry Cunliffe, professor of European archaeology at Oxford University, the story of High Brazil has a long history, predating its appearance on 14th century maps. The legend goes back much further, probably into pre-Christian times, appearing first in the 7th century in the Irish text known as the Adventure of Bran Sol Febal, which tells of Bran's visit to this other world island supported on pillars of gold where games are played, people are always happy, there is no sorrow or sickness, and music is always to be heard. Truly a land of the blessed. One or two researchers are of the opinion that the stories of Atlantis and High Brazil may have a common origin. They believe that both legends may be based on a common ancient source. A story was passed down through generations from the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. Though that is an extraordinary length of time for a story to have survived, it's not completely beyond the realms of possibility.
You are watching Forbidden Knowledge TV.